Welcome back to the Tim and Steve Show. I'm Tim Beard.
I'm Steve Morris.
Bad boys, bad boys. What you gonna do? One of these days we'll play that song. What's
No,
going on,
you
Chief?
don't have to.
8 seconds.
No, you're not even allowed to do that. I found that
really?
out. Yeah, Chief, got to start this with an apology.
Why?
Well, Steve brought it out to my attention that I've been spelling your name wrong. There's no N.
There's
in
no
your
N.
name.
Yeah, it's like
So-
the town.
Yep,
6 letters, no N.
that's on me. But
It's all right.
we
We
fixed,
fixed it.
Yeah, it was spelled wrong at Dancing with the Stars, too.
Oh, so-
That's probably why we misspelled it.
Ah, that's exactly
Yeah.
why.
We'll blame it on
Taking
the
a cue
Chamber of
from them.
Commerce.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we can blame them.
Lindsay Patton.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's all her fault. Phew, I feel better now.
So I actually caught it. I didn't catch it until the first night, Friday. And so I didn't say something until Saturday before the show. And Megan was like, don't say anything. She'll freak out. Don't say anything. So I wasn't going to. And then Aggie told her. And she freaked out. It still didn't get fixed. So.
Oops.
Yeah, whatever.
So prom went really good.
Prom did. Yeah, I think. I mean,
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
Sada was on the race car. What did you think?
just awesome that y'all allow them to do that. Like,
Yeah.
it was a good memory for her. I mean, she knows that it was, they were safe. They they set up here and rigged it up as safe as it could be. But just a fun experience, I think, for all of them. Because that wasn't
He got
the
the prom
only
king,
car.
and I'm taking credit for that.
Oh, yeah. Devin did get
Yeah.
prom king.
So keep an open mind, okay? My daughter graduates next year. Wants to bring a monster truck, which I
I think
said,
it's been done before.
Really?
Yep.
I haven't heard. Dang.
You have to come up with a new idea. You got to be original.
Well, that's her idea though. So I'm like, I bet he'll let us do it. I mean, I can't drive it. It'd have to be whoever owns it. I wish I could drive it, but
Yeah, you could probably just go real slow. I don't know. Is it,
listen,
Oh,
I had
not
that
that heavy.
Porsche. No,
the way they jump those up in the air, they can't be that heavy.
I don't know. They've got like a lot of horsepower. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, I think somebody's done a monster truck once before.
man, I have to look into that. That'd be disappointing because I'm talking like monster truck.
In fact, when I was talking about Devin bringing the race car, we started talking about different vehicles. I think somebody's done a horse and buggy before.
Yep.
I think if I remember correctly, somebody did like they had 2 kids like pulling almost like a rickshaw one year with the attendees in the back, and but when I was talking about the race car, someone was like, "Oh yeah, we've had really weird stuff. Like we had a monster truck." So yeah, check into that.
It's pretty crazy. Like, and you said it before. Shannon said it that day too. Like, this is why I love Newport.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody does prom like Newport does prom.
Yeah, no, it's a thing.
And it's just awesome. And so, thank you for being so accommodating to all,
Yeah.
the kids too, and in the school. And it was a great turnout. And
Yeah, the
good
only
memory.
hiccup that we had from my perspective is that I had a second officer helping, and I didn't get her down to Central Street soon enough. So the first couple of kids that came through, we were dealing with traffic, but we get sorted out pretty quick. And
I almost only got hit like one time. It's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I noticed that, but I didn't realize it
Yeah,
was
we
a
got-
hiccup. I figured y'all were like, oh, let's just make it safer and close it.
yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of a hiccup, but then we got it sorted out, and it was all good.
Ran smoothly from our perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a great
Appreciate
day.
you guys, the teachers, I don't know.
How was the actual dancing event?
Good song.
I think Zeta said it was a blast. I don't think she hardly stopped dancing. She said she had
That's
a good
pretty cool.
time. So it's good to hear, our kids say, yeah, it was awesome. Like everything. Like I didn't hear her complain
No,
about
I didn't hear anything.
One thing.
I'm like a traditionalist. Like, I wish graduation stayed on the Common where it used to always be, and like prom used to be at the Opera House. But they've totally like elevated prom to a whole new level. Doing it at the hangar at the Parlin Field, I think, is awesome. That's awesome.
So I wasn't here for a common graduation.
Yep.
I love our common, make no mistake. But one of the pieces of feedback from the people that have done both is that the traffic noise is way reduced.
I would agree very much with that. Yeah, I
That's
would
what
agree.
I told
that,
him when he brought that up because I didn't know about the common either, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Well, it'd be awesome until a guy on a motorcycle revs for
Right.
30
yeah, the
seconds.
noise and then parking isn't obviously as good. Where at the high school, there's plenty of it. So I understand. I do
And then
understand
we've
the
had
purpose.
for the last
so.
2 years we've had fireworks, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, what else is new and exciting? Anything?
There's just a lot going on. It's that time of year. There's a lot going on.
Graduation's coming up soon.
Yeah, graduation's the 8th, right? I have that right?
I think
Yes,
so.
the
Yeah,
8th at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
You better know that.
Well, my graduation announcements that we got Zeta say 4 p.m. because that's what I was told. And then she sent me a text in the middle of 30 other texts that said, "Oh, by the way, it's at 6." And I was like, "Okay." And then a week later, when I finished them, I totally forgot about that text because the text was in, some other conversation.
Yeah, right.
So,
Sort of buried in the back of the bill there.
so Rob, if you're watching, it's at 6 o'clock, not 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's for my brother
Yeah. Coming up from Texas?
from Colorado.
Colorado.
He'll be
Cool.
up here next week.
Spending some time?
They're going to be here June and July.
Wow. Living
Not
with
here,
you?
though. No, he has a house in New London.
Oh, okay.
He does understand you do the show, right? He's used to Steve that's been retired.
No, he does not like the fact that I'm doing this and we're trying to garden. There's no time for him to call me up and let me handle all his problems.
Play
This-
some golf.
He's a good golfer.
Is
We
he?
can get him to go. He'll be our fourth if we don't have another. Then we could team up. We could do teams. Rob and I would have to be on separate teams then.
What do you mean?
Suddenly I like that.
Yeah. Why? Why do you say that?
Because he's a scratch golfer.
Yeah, so is Tim.
He's not good?
No, scratch means that.
Yeah, you don't have a handicap.
Yeah, his handy. If he does, it's like a 4.
I need a handicap.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The higher the handicap, the more opportunities for growth you have.
Right. So give you like a 30 handicap, then we take off 30 strokes at the end of yours. So if you shoot 110, then
Yes,
you really shoot
I need that.
80.
Yes. I need that.
And no penalty for having to add another ball or
Right.
dropping
Yeah.
a ball.
I mean, we
How many balls do you typically bring with you? Because
me,
Steve?
6.
One.
okay,
One.
so I'll need like
I
30.
put the L4, L5 in it, so I've been known to damage some golf balls with my back commitment that I
Yeah,
put
but if
in.
you get it, if you hit it right, then that's just a bomb, right?
Oh, it's a bomb. It's
Yeah,
beautiful
buried
to
bonds,
see.
like-
I'm like a legend amongst the family members, but it's not for my consistent game. It's for the drives
Yeah.
that are so impressive that even the older golfers that I'm playing with and around still say something to my dad like, "I can't believe your son drove it so far." My father-in-law and his friends. But they don't remember my actual score. They just remember certain drives.
So are you doing the shooting league or no?
No.
Oh, okay. So we did that yesterday. It was our first time.
Yeah, I
And
know, I got some love afterwards.
you got some love?
Yeah.
Because we went, or?
No, I got some love from people who are in the league that I didn't attend.
Oh.
Oh.
Love being
Another
Sarcasm.
rookie? Or another, yes,
Sarcasm.
another, okay.
Yeah.
So out of a 288, we shot, which one do you think shot better?
I think you guys both performed very well, up to your own personal standards.
Completely.
Oh, you need to be a politician.
Yes, people keep telling him that. No, so Steve got a 166. I got a whopping 112. Todd
It's just
Fratzel.
opportunities for growth.
Yeah, Todd Fratzel said that mine looked like a turkey shot. I kind of was. If the guy was taller and wider,
You'd have
totally
them.
would have got him in the shoulder.
Yeah, sure.
But and then Pinnacle has ordered me 2 more magazines because I only have 1, which you need. What is it? 32 rounds.
What are you running for a pistol?
The Springfield 9mm.
Okay.
Which I don't know.
Steve, what about you?
I have a Ruger 9. What is it called?
I don't
I
know.
always want to say special, but it's Security 9.
Okay.
Ruger Security 9.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: I shoot better with my 45, but 45 ammo was like way more expensive.
It is, yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm like, maybe I should switch because I don't know. Like for all my shots are way to the like left 6 inches and the up 6 inches. So I don't know. Maybe
Are you running iron sights or do you have optics on it?
you're allowed optics.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't even penalize them for that.
No, it's its own division.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's just iron sights. Like, I haven't shot a lot though. Like that's the short some of it. So the nice thing is it's room for improvement. So
There you go. Yeah, opportunities for growth.
Mine was mostly insecurity because I didn't have all the right gear. So
Yeah.
I had magazines in my pocket and
Yeah,
my belt
yeah.
loop. And then
Yeah.
we realized that they published that day, they put it up there of how many targets or
Yeah,
rounds
what-
you're going to
what
fire.
the course fire
and so
is.
I probably should have adjusted my magazines and taken the time to just prepare a little bit like that. And so I dropped the magazine. You can't bend over and pick it up. It's a range violation or safety violation. Well, that's what I call it, but no on the range.
Yeah.
So anyway, there was some insecurity. My armpits started pumping and felt like everybody's watching me. So I had a few that.
Listen, I had to reload my mag between lines.
I know, but I
And I
don't know anyone.
miscounted
You
3
know
bullets.
everyone. You can like play it off as a joke. I walked by.
Oh, Jimmy thought it was hilarious. Jimmy's like, hey, you're supposed to hit the blue target, not the white corner. I'm like, oh, is that what I'm doing wrong?
Well, like after I dropped the magazine and then I pulled one out that I'd already used up, and then once I finally got it loaded and it's timed, then I was like, oh my gosh, which target am I? So then I had to like count the guys to my left, count my target over, and then by then I'd ran out of time and I just put the safety on and put it back in my
Basically,
holster.
Chief,
I didn't even take those 2 shots.
what I realized, Chief, is if I was to shoot at somebody that was trying to kill me, if they zigzag, they could run into a shot. If they
Yeah.
run straight at me, I might be screwed.
What do they say that the safest place to be is right in front of you, right?
That's what they
But-
taught us on the
But it's
army.
like it's
Take a
like
knee.
it's like being a carpenter or something, right? This if you have the tools,
Right.
like it makes the job infinitely easier, right? So if you've got
Yeah,
like
some of those guys look like Navy SEAls out there.
oh yeah, I mean,
Oh,
they
yeah,
look-
yeah.
yeah.
And then their
Flip
target,
on.
though, I mean, there's nothing left in the center,
Yeah.
so I'll give them some credit.
Sure.
But you know, I'm definitely not to where I need to be of as much trash as I have talked.
So next week, let's hope we have better news for you on that front.
Yeah.
My brother's doing it, so when he gets here, he'll be joining us on
Oh,
Wednesdays
really?
at the league.
Can't wait for that.
Is he doing the whole league the whole summer?
Well,
As
June
much
and July.
as much as he's
Yeah.
around. For
But
it?
it's
Nice.
for us to.
He'll probably
hang
still
out.
beat us, even though he's only there for 2/3
Yeah, he's
of
being
the
very
time.
modest. Because I sent him, I was like, I got a 166 out of 288, and he was like, oh, you'll still beat me. I doubt it. He was an infantry ranger, all that good stuff.
Yeah,
He'll
good.
probably blow out the center of the target. Because he'll go to Pinnacle and he'll get all the exact gear that he needs, whereas I'll take a leather holster like I'm John Wayne.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then my leather holster was too tight, so then I had to switch back to my one from when I was in the Army, which, it's good, but it's not as professional looking, I guess, maybe.
Once again, I'm handicapped, though, because I'm a lefty. Pinnacle had nothing for a holster, so I show up and Jim was like, you can't have that because it was in my belt. No, can't do that. So luckily I found a holster I had at the house. I'm like, this will kind of work. Because that was a great, like, hard plastic holster. I'm like, this is nice. But I was like, well, what if I just have it on the right side and I'll just switch hands? And you don't want to do that. And then once I saw how they do it, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to switch hands. I don't want to play this game. So,
Right.
and then you have to shoot, what was it, 3 with your non-strong hand?
Yes, which is hard for me with a paralyzed
No,
eye.
it's
So
your
it took me-
other strong hand. Some
Yeah.
people call it.
Non-dominant,
Some people
right? Is that
call
what
it
they
your
call it?
strong hand and your weak hand. No, I call it your strong hand and your other strong hand. You don't have a weak hand. There's no such thing.
Yeah, well,
Thunder,
the guy next to me was probably...
Thunder and lightning.
The guy next to me was probably happy. That's
The
probably shooting
rundown.
his target.
Little thunder, little lightning.
So,
So-
did
yeah.
you see the executive order from our almighty King President Trump?
I did.
I mean Biden.
Yeah.
Sorry,
You don't even know what
slipped
year this
that
is.
one.
Yeah,
I know.
I
I
did.
don't know what year it is. 2016, right? No,
I did,
So-
and he got a lot of bipartisan support on that. That executive order pretty much. That doesn't pretty much. It covers federal law enforcement officers, which obviously I am not one of those.
Huh.
But here's the thing: in August of 2021, Governor Sununu signed into law he didn't sign into law, but he sort of approved a number of different recommendations from the Lee Act Commission, which followed the George Floyd incident from the summer before. So in New Hampshire, this commission got together. They proposed several dozens and dozens of recommendations to Chris Sununu, and then in August of 2021, he approved them. Some of them were by executive order, others are going to be by administrative rule, and then still others are hopefully going to be, signed into law legislatively. So there's essentially 3 different tracks that these recommendations can come from. Most of those recommendations at the New Hampshire level are encapsulated in the federal executive order that President Biden signed yesterday. So it talks about accountability, talks about body cameras, it talks about officer wellness and mental health. It does talk a little bit about allocating money to state and local resources for different projects and that kind of thing. Talks about the need to have accredited police departments and police agencies, talks about federal law enforcement agencies becoming accredited, and sort of having standards and policies, best practices for uses of force, and making complaints on officers, and all the things that we have been talking about for the last 2 years, which are not bad. Like they're
Right.
not
We
bad.
kind of talked about that
Right.
last week.
I think sometimes when you start talking about like police reform, and you start talking about the government like mandating all these changes, we get suspicious. And I'm not just talking about police officers getting suspicious, but I think just in general, like the government should be there to make us all safe. That's what the role of the government is, in my humble opinion, is to keep us safe. And when they start like really getting down into it, you start to get like nervous. Like, what are you doing, meddling in local affairs? But at the end of the day, these different things are good. They're good at the federal level. They're good at the state level. They're good at the local level. Transparency has become kind of a buzzword over the last, I don't know, several years. It's not since George Floyd. It's not since Ferguson. It's become a buzzword even before that. Like, I would say, sometime around 2000, 2001, we started demanding like more accountability of our government and asking to see more things. And you see that now, not even just in policing, but you see it now in freedom of information requests, and like, the public is demanding more transparency from their government, and that's what all of these things are asking for. And it's good, you know what I mean? It's a transition for some people, but
Right.
for me, I've pretty much lived no other way in law enforcement, and certainly since I've been in administration and law enforcement, it's been this way. So it's not really a big change for me.
Right. So obviously there's a horrible shooting on Tuesday at a school in Texas, and we talked a little bit about it earlier, and our opinions and stuff like that. But I'm just curious, your wife's a teacher, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So
Fourth grade.
Fourth grade. Yeah.
Yep.
So, what do you see as there's not really fix. Fix is not a good word, I guess. But
Yeah.
like, what do you see? I keep hearing gun control, which obviously, especially me, I'll speak for myself, not for Steve, but like really gets me because everyone's like, well, guns, and it's like crimes committed with guns. The only time we ever blame the tool and not the person. Or DWI, it's like, oh, well, it's the car's fault. No, it's the person's fault. It's always that. So we're always blaming guns. That's all we do, right? Guns. And I don't think that's the fix. And like I said, that's my personal opinion. But as law enforcement, as your wife's a teacher, like, what do you see as, how do we potentially change this? Because this is not acceptable, as well.
Yeah, and I quite frankly, and I know this is not an acceptable answer, but I don't know how you change it. There's so many problems. Like what was it? It was April 20th, 1999 that two shooters went into Columbine High School and shut up the high school, and that really brought. And that wasn't the first school shooting, but that was the first school shooting where it was like televised as it was happening on national TV. And then it started to have a lot of commentary afterwards about, the police response. What did they do right? What did they do wrong? There's a lot of images about from Columbine of, police officers standing outside while the gunmen were inside killing the kids. And that's not a cowardice response. Quite frankly, what was happening there was you had the paradigm at the time was that the police officers in an active shooter event would wait until the SWAT team got there, and then they would go in as a unit and they would address the threat. Well, after Columbine, we as law enforcement started doing things differently. We didn't go in anymore with a SWAT team. Now it's you go in, you go to the sound of gunfire, and you address the threat. So the whole premise ever since Columbine has been to get us there quicker, and then to train civilians on what to do between when it starts and when we get there. And I teach a course, and I'm trying to put together a course for the Newport community, so a much larger public course in response to we've had 3 active shooter events in the last 10 days, right? So we had this elementary school in Texas, there was the church in California, and then there was the supermarket in New York. So in response to all of those, I'm trying to put together a sort of a community training event where we teach what is referred to as CRACE, civilian response to active shooter events. And it talks about what, the national average for us to get from the police station to an active shooter event is 3 minutes. So what does somebody do in the 3 minutes between when it starts and when we get there? Because the research has shown that the number of casualties is based almost entirely on the police response. So the faster we can get there and address the threat, the lower the number of casualties, the lower number of casualties that is going to be. But people also have the ability, they have agency in this equation, right? So they can do things to prevent. I'm going to use it. It's going to sound callous, but prevent themselves from being a target, right? They can deny access to where they are. They can avoid the whole thing altogether, so they can run out of the building, and that's what we suggest. Run away. You know what I mean? If you can get away, and then call us. If you can't get away, then deny access to where you are. If you can't run away, if you can't deny access to where you are, and you're confronted with the bad guy, then defend yourself. You have a legal right to do so, and you should. So I do think, I know I'm sort of on the lower level here, and I'm not at big picture yet, and I'll get there, but I do think to some degree we have to continue having these hard conversations at a local level. What do you do if you're confronted with an active attack or event? We don't just call them active shooter events because, as you know, they don't just happen with guns. They happen with cars or with knives or any other number of weapons that somebody may possess. So what do you do? And we have to continue having that conversation. On a big picture thing, you've heard a lot about these red flag laws, which are emergency risk protective orders, and there could be some value in some of those, but from the standpoint of somebody's constitutional rights. If it's a court order, that's one thing. We have some of these that exist right now, right? Domestic violence restraining orders. That essentially would be an emergency risk protective order where the police are required to take someone's firearms from them. So if somebody makes they make a report to the court through an affidavit that they're in risk of abuse or that they're in a situation where they're in fear of abuse, and a judge issues a protective order, we are required by law to take the firearms, at least for the pendency of that order, right? So this, I think what we're hearing now is like an expansion of that to, somebody says that, that Tim is, in fear of, or he's a danger to himself or others, and they would have to articulate what that danger is. The movement would be that we would then take firearms from you. There's concerns with that. There could be upsides to that too, but there's also risks in doing that. And we could pontificate all day long about what those upsides and downsides are, but that's certainly something that states are thinking about doing now. I don't know if your viewers know this or not. 60% of gun violence is suicides. One of the other things that I think about when you start thinking about, if you're a person that, is a gun enthusiast, right? We led off by talking about you guys going to the Pistol League last night, right? But now you've fallen on hard times and you're going through, a depressed state or whatever. And I'm making this situation up as we go, right? To illustrate my point. And someone says, Tim may be having a hard time. If really the goal is for you to, when I say the goal, I'm talking in society or whatever, if we want you, if you're having a hard time with your mental health, to seek treatment, we want to do that so there's not a whole lot of guardrails in place that are going to derail that, right? But if if I go to the hospital and I tell somebody that I'm feeling depressed or I want to, I'm having suicidal ideation, but they're going to take my guns, are you going to be as likely to go and get the help that you need?
Right.
I mean, I don't know the answer to that, right? It's rhetorical. I don't know.
Right.
So
A tough dilemma.
it is a tough dilemma, right? we do put restrictions on gun ownership and gun possession, and I am a believer, and I've said it in the past, that like with rights, constitutional rights comes responsibilities, right? So if you're gonna, exercise your right to bear arms, you have a certain responsibility. You have a responsibility to, to secure your firearms properly, to do all the things that you have to do to keep yourself and other people safe from them. So, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole on politics here.
It's just tough because every time something happens, we need more laws, and it's like criminals don't follow laws. We have a lot of drug laws out there, but
Yeah.
drugs are like the number one issue in the country. The number one
Yeah.
killer from 50 years to birth is related to fentanyl now, and it's like, so you can just keep throwing laws at it, but it's a bigger issue than that.
Yeah, laws constrain, the good people
Right.
from doing
Right.
it, because the bad people are going to continue to break the laws, right? It is against the law to shoot and kill people, and this guy shot and killed, 22 people, 21 people, 19
well-
children, 2 adults, right? So
And his grandma actually is 20.
So
yeah,
22,
yeah,
you're right.
Yeah.
So there's a law that prevents homicide, and he did that 22 times over. So, but on the other, I will, argue the other side of the coin, because I think that that's what we are duty bound to do as a professional. It's not just to see things the way that we want to see it, but to look at the other side of the coin. Like, I think that when you consistently have, these events with mass murder in any form, I mean, I don't think that we can just say, like, you can't do anything. Like, there's no way to stop it. We've got to come up with,
Right.
robust ways to solve the problem, whether it be a more robust way to identify people that are suffering from mental health crisis, or to intervene earlier, to whether it has to be some sort of public policy on firearms or weapons or what, but that we've got to do, and also talking about like education, and the type of education that I was talking about, to civilians, about how they can protect themselves, hardening places, so making sure that schools have locked doors, that they have surveillance cameras, that we have security, and police in school or around school, that we're supporting them in doing their job, and we're supporting the police, and we're not like, I'm going to go off on a different tangent here for a second, because I have the microphone and I'm going to, but I do think that sometimes in our country we have an identity crisis when it comes to the police, right? At times we say, the police are becoming too militarized. We are wearing, external body armor now, and you have rifles, and you have, these specially equipped vehicles, and we look too much like the military. And so, as an institution, we try to sort of course correct so that we're doing the job that society wants us to do. But then, like a few days ago, when the wolf is at the door, they want a badass.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so when you look on the news and you see police officers wearing external body armor and helmets, and they have rifles and stuff like that, that's comforting. So what I mean, yes, we don't want that to happen, right? But like, that's what we're here for. We're here to address the wolf when he comes to the door. And I think
we gotta stop demonizing police. I mean, we've said that for a long time. Like,
Yeah. I mean, there's every profession has a bad apple.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
Right.
what I mean? Like,
and I do agree to some extent. I will agree to some extent that, like, yes, we're not all wearing polyester anymore. We're not like wearing a tie and being like that, almost like a banker going
Right,
to work.
like the British
That's-
Bobby or
yeah,
whatever.
that's not what we are anymore. We definitely have a more tactical appearance. Some of that is just based on like some of these initiatives, like officer wellness and stuff like that. We have understood over time that wearing all your gear on your hip can cause back problems and problems with your gait, and it shortens the longevity of an officer's career. And so when you are able to take that off, when you're able to like sit in the police station and write reports and take your gear off of your waist and be a little bit more comfortable, that's a benefit. And but still, at the end of the day, I agree that some of that is out there and some of it exists. And, you know, if we're driving an M1A1 Abrams down Main Street in Newport, that's probably a bridge too far, right? So,
it's funny because I've kind of felt that many times, like the police shouldn't have military, you know, we are militarizing our police department. But then, I mean, it's tough. It's a fine line, right? Like, what's too far? And then yesterday or 2 days ago, those people, if you showed up with an M1 tank, they probably been happy with that because it would have took the target out. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's, I don't know, your job just gets harder and harder, I guess. And now on a local level, like, we have, so every school, I'm just not even sure, but I'm pretty sure that every school has some sort of policy in place or procedure in place, just like their fire drills for this kind of.
Yeah, I think the Department of Education actually mandates that they do a certain number of lockdown drills in a year. And they do them here at Newport. Mm-hmm. And certainly at the beginning of the year, they have safety plans and drills that they put into place and that they provide copies of those to us. And we work with the schools and talk to their staff and the faculty about, you know, preparedness. And it's, you know, a lot of times in this conversation we sort of get lost in this is an active shooter presentation, but it's really not. It's like, it's crisis. So it could be active shooter, it could be fire, it could be, you know, a lot of the presentation that I do for citizen response to active shooter events, we actually talk about plane crashes to some degree, because at the end of the day, stress is stress is stress, right? So if you're in an airplane that has some sort of a problem when it's landing and then the fuselage fills with smoke, like, that's going to be stressful. And hormonally, you're going to respond the same way you are as you would in a gunfight, you know? So we teach them, like, what you can expect and how, you know, what the things that you should do during those moments, right? Like, I think there's this adage that, like, oh, when this happens, we'll just rise to the occasion, you know?
Right.
You don't rise to the occasion, you fall back on your training.
But yeah, when I was a long-term sub, where I worked was right by the front doors, which they're locked, right?
Yep.
You get buzzed in. But I'm just the kind of guy that's like, all right, if something happens, I got this, I can move here, this I can do, I can put the kids here. Like, that's just me with my military training. Like, even when I subbed at the high school, when I walked into a room that I'd never been into, first thing I did was like, all right, what are my... But that's from 25 years of just being hyper alert of my surroundings. And
that's the whole premise to the training that I teach, which is you should just be aware of your surroundings. You know, in 2003, I think it was 2003, was the West Warwick Station nightclub fire, right? And 100 people died in that nightclub that night. The majority of the people who died in the primary egress, because that's where they had gone in. So that's where they went out. If people just stopped and looked around and said, okay, there's another egress over there, or there's a window, or there's this, or there's that, but what happens in a crisis is that, you know, the herd of people start going towards, you know, the door, and then everybody follows them. And it doesn't take everybody. It just takes one or two people to say, hey, stop. Instead of going that way, let's go that way. And guess what? All of a sudden, you've now just, like, changed the direction. So that's the other thing that I teach is I don't need to impact everybody in this classroom as much as I'd like to impact everybody, because then you can impact everybody. But the reality is, if I can just get one or two of you, and, you know, again, assuming that they're all from the same company, right? Like, if I teach, you know, if I go to a company and I teach them and I can get one or two of them to think a little bit differently, then in a crisis, if those one or two people have their wits about them and they have thought about things and they've looked at their surroundings and they know where the egresses are, they know where how the doors lock and all this other thing, there's a better chance that more people will survive.
Yeah, that's why, like, doors now by code have to open out, so you have to pull the door in a public building because there was a fire or something where people got crushed because the door had to be opened in to get out. And so it's like little things like that we've learned over time through crises that,
Yep.
you know, we have to change this because this doesn't work and this doesn't work. And
there's a really good book by a woman by the name of Amanda Ripley. It's called Unthinkable, or Yeah, I think that's the title. There's a subtitle to it too, but she did a lot of research on 9/11 in the Trade Center, and like how people responded to that particular event. And so what a lot of people may or may not realize is that when the first plane hit the tower, there was a public address that came over and said, everybody stay in your area, we're trying to assess the situation. And interestingly enough, did you ever hear of Rick Rescorla?
Sounds familiar. Is he the?
He was an Army guy,
Yeah.
but he worked for Morgan Stanley in corporate
yeah.
security. He, interestingly enough, if you've ever watched We Were Soldiers and you see Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore, Rescorla at the Battle of Yadrang Valley in '65 was his XO, and it was in the Battle of Yadrang Valley. Hal Moore says that Rescorla was the best officer he ever served with in battle. That's kind of cool because Hal Moore was kind of a badass, but be that as it may. Fast forward to 2001, he was one of these people that was always like drilling, and always like he was actually trying to get Morgan Stanley to move out of the Trade Center because he's like, this is a target for terrorism. Right. In fact, in '93, he predicted that was going to happen, and it happened just the way that he predicted it. And then he kept saying to them, like, we got to move out of here, and they're like, hey, dude, we're under contract, we have to be here. And so he was like, all right, well, if we're going to be here, we're going to drill. And so he would drill and drill and drill and drill, and he'd get on bullhorns, and the executives from Morgan Stanley were annoyed because they were like, this guy's taking up valuable work time for our employees, blowing whistles and running drills and all this stuff, and this is never going to happen, right? Well, just like Benjamin Franklin said, an ounce of preparation is worth a pound of cure. When that announcement came out on 9/11, he immediately went into action, and he got every single Morgan Stanley employee out to safety because he was like, no, we're not sitting here waiting. We're going to act now. And he got them all out through the stairwells as the building was starting to like come apart. He was singing to them and like calming them down, telling them it was okay for them to call home and this, that, and the other thing. And he was last seen going up to rescue other people in the tower, not Morgan Stanley employees, and when the building collapsed. So, died a hero's death. But again, we're talking about preparation and drills, and it's not. A lot of people think it's like paranoia. You know what I mean? Like, well, if you look around and you look at windows, like you're paranoid. It's not paranoia. It's being prepared.
It's so that you don't panic.
Yeah, because when the wolf's at the door, everybody looks to you and they're like, "Hey, dude, help me!" You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't.
Too many
panic.
people panic, exactly, and so many people die because of panic before. And if you can, you have to definitely let us know when you do this so that we can help advertise it for you. And
yeah, I'm working on it.
So.
I will probably know definitively within the next day or so. I'm trying to do it at the Opera House, so we'll.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a really good presentation. We talk a lot about the physiology of a crisis. We do talk about active shooter events. We do break some of them down. We talk about Sandy Hook a little bit. We talk about Virginia Tech a little bit, but we spend a lot of time talking about like what happens in the human body when you start to encounter a crisis, right? And like, what does your body do? And then, more importantly, what does your mind do? And the flight, fight, freeze response, and how that corresponds to heart rate and all this other. It's good stuff.
Nice. So let's get into a more lighthearted part of the conversation.
Did you see this?
Yes.
Because I just wanted to make sure.
8K, man. What'd you run it in?
I don't know, but the story is I went there to run a 10K, and there was a sign that said 8K to the right, and I was like, 2K less, so I turned right, and I ended up getting third. So there's probably like
congratulations,
4 of us.
man.
That was 8 years.
There was only 2 of them that competed in it, but
just thought I'd throw it out there.
Yeah,
Congratulations. I used to be able to run.
the moose is because Steve's never seen a moose before. So
Really?
In New Hampshire, I've seen one in Maine when I went to Moose River.
There was a moose hanging out in Claremont the other day over by Wade's place. I think he wanted an ice cream cone or something like that. There was all
remember the
kinds
one that was hanging out at Cumbies for a little bit?
Yeah.
It was going through by Cumbies and Burger King. And
Well, I've seen a picture of one, a smaller one, walking from like downtown out down whatever that road is towards Corbin, but from up towards Corbin, it was a younger one. This was 2 or 3 years ago.
I just saw something the other day, I think on social media, that state biologists are saying that our moose population is getting decimated by ticks and
Yep.
worms.
Yeah, when we did the 100-mile wilderness, the guide that we stayed with before we packed out, he was saying that in the winter it looks like something is getting murdered, but it's the moose on the ice and snow scratching off all the ticks because the ticks were so bad in Maine a few years
Really?
ago. Yeah, so he said it's kind of scary. You come across like this like bloody pathway, but they were just getting decimated by ticks in Maine.
Yeah.
He said it was like overwhelmingly gross.
it's bad.
The amount
There's
of ticks on the
Video
moose.
or something of a baby moose dying in Maine the other day because of ticks or something. Like, yeah, it's getting.
And they get
I don't know.
they get like brain worm, I think, too. And,
yeah, brainworm. Yeah.
And,
So if
and
you
that
have
could
some-
be caused by the ticks. I don't know, but
I wonder if we could get like, we have it for dogs. Like they have something.
Well, Devin said he saw a gigantic one at the end of my driveway a few months back. Well, I guess probably about 6-7 months ago.
oh really?
He said it was like the whole length of the driveway with gigantic paddles on it and everything.
Really?
And I have.
They are the dumbest animal,
It
though.
rained last June, I think, for like 30 days straight. That's
Yeah.
why I think my garden was so prolific last year. Was the
Yeah,
natural-
remember we had all those mushrooms too?
Yeah.
Like my dog ate some of those mushrooms.
Did you eat those with some
Yeah,
of
and
this
then we
too?
ended up going. Yeah, we ended up going to having to bring it to the vet. Anyway, sorry.
No, but a moose went down and was drinking out of the pond and sunk in the ground. It was so big. So I have cameras up now
Oh, really?
just to see if he comes back. Yeah, because
Yeah.
they probably make the same trek.
Yeah.
I would assume that they have a pretty good memory like most animals do. So anyway, I got my cameras out there waiting to see if he shows up. But that was last June, and then Devin saw this one in November, December, I guess, time frame.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting, though.
Yeah.
What else?
Anything else exciting?
Maple Street looks good.
It does look good.
Yeah,
Looks really good. Smooth.
it is.
Almost this whole entire road now, all the way
Yeah,
to Corbin.
Corbin Road. Yeah,
It's like a racetrack.
State did that one.
Stop with the racetrack stuff. You sound like the town manager.
Hey, I'm just trying to get Chief out here to keep my wife's speed limit down.
Oh,
You're welcome, Nikki.
that's smart of you.
Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
Safety.
We were telling everyone about the ceremony on the Common on Monday at 11.
Yep.
Trying to get people to go out for that and to remember that Memorial Day is not just a 4-day weekend or a 3-day weekend
About
for
burgers,
people.
yeah.
And, yeah, it's about, our freedoms and the people that
Yeah.
died to
Yep.
protect those. And
Yep.
are you going to be at the, not to put you on the spot, but are you going to be at the ceremony or
We'll see.
you got Monday off?
Yeah, we'll see.
It's really cool though. They do it every year. I've been a few times, but not as much as I'd like
I think
to.
we marched down there. We walked down there when I was teaching
They do a great job.
pictures. Like all the kids went down there 3
It's
years
the
ago.
VFW, right? What's that on? Yeah, they.
American Legion, VFW.
Yeah, they're gonna bring the cannon out. I want a cannon. Can I legally own a cannon?
No, we're gonna get back into that gun control conversation. Or...
No, I just want to know.
Can we get him analyzed here to make sure that I'm just kidding.
It's the quiet ones you gotta worry about, not the ones that talk on the radio or the. Yeah.
I haven't said much today, so is that implying that I need to
You're,
watch out?
yeah, you're the one about whom we should worry.
No.
He's got another hat on today.
This is my T-ball coaching 1983 hat. The shape of it, anyway. I don't think it really shows on the camera, but it's very gigantic on the front.
I was thinking about you this morning.
Oh no,
That's creepy.
Yeah, not in a
Continue.
bad way. No, I'm almost finished a pretty good book right now about Colin Powell,
yeah.
and
Which
I
one
was-
is it?
It's called In Leadership and Life.
In Leadership and Life. I wonder if I
It's only like 260 pages. If I'm given to understand, his autobiography is like huge. But it just takes like a lot of his good, like sort of anecdotes from the Army and his time as Secretary of State and National Security Advisor and stuff, and condenses them into a fairly short book about some lessons that he learned. He doesn't say like you should do this or you shouldn't do that. It's just like this is what happened and this is how I tried to live, and pretty cool stuff. But it made me think about you because you were in the Army the same time he was,
I was.
at least towards the end,
towards
right?
the end. Yeah.
Because you were at West Point in the
I graduated in
mid-90s.
'98.
Yeah, and
So he was-
and he probably
Right around then is when he retired. I want to say
he became Secretary of State like
right,
in
he was still
2000, I think, for
Right.
George W.
Yeah, so I've read, I want to say, his autobiography, or at least started it. That was
Yeah.
a while ago, though. But it's interesting the way that because that's how I try to always talk to Tim. Like when you say things, because he likes to tell everybody that they're jackwagons and stuff, and I'm
Yeah.
like, when you tell them that, they're going to go on the defensive, and they're going to get more ingrained into their position. Whereas if you try to just tell them like, hey, this is what happened, this is how I see it, this is what I experienced, and then maybe they'll take a nugget or two from that.
There's some people you just can't get through to no matter what. So
I know.
Yeah,
Tim.
but you should keep trying. You should keep trying.
yeah.
He's going to get me so bad one of these days.
Yes, I will.
No, but it's our different styles. Like Tim he gets emotional, and whereas I try to think about things and see it from the other side and ask questions because a lot of times, because even the other day when both of us were talking about something, I was like, well, let me look this up. And granted, there were still some issues with what they did. They actually did do something. So,
But this is why I got fish in your pond and signed you up the day after you weren't allowed to sign up anymore for the gun thing, though. Because I just...
yeah, you make things happen. I, on the other hand, like to sit and let things marinate for a while, and sometimes opportunities pass me by while I'm thinking about them.
But see, here's the interesting thing, right?
feel like we're in marriage counseling.
But if you know who you are, right? If you know that's who you are, and you know that things will pass you by, sometimes that you can leverage that and say like, not today. Like I need to become more emotional. If you're an emotional type of person, and you recognize that you're prone to like react as opposed to respond, then you can say like, I know what's happening here. Settle down, slow your roll, and take some time.
Self-awareness is a good thing.
That's what makes the show so good.
Yeah,
You're this side, I'm this side.
It's a good give and take.
That's like the hardest thing I think, and I found like with the school and the school board and all the other things is like with my business to just make decisions and follow them out and just do them like boom, boom, boom. But government's slow. Like everything's really
Government is slow, yeah.
So it's like I could do this if you would just let me faster, but everything's slow. So it's frustrating because it's like this is not very hard. This is easy, but
Well, because we're not working for profit, and you've had people doing things for years a certain way, and so it takes a certain style to change things. You can't just go in. You can, if something's illegal, immoral, unethical, obviously go in and fix it immediately. Otherwise, you got to get them, and you got to get them to see your vision and make that your vision and adjust your vision to where it includes their input, so that you're not just being a dictator, for lack of a better word. Because you can go in, like on the school board, I could go and make some motions that may or may not pass depending on how I word them, and it could make life miserable for some people, and they're definitely not going to want to work there anymore because it's too much of a change too quickly for them, and they can't see the vision and they can't own it and be a part of it. So you got to get buy-in. You got to get.
I heard something the other day that people always say change is hard. Change isn't hard. Being changed is hard.
Right.
So like, if I'll use myself for example. If I were to say like, I want to get in shape and I want to start a workout routine, or I want to try a diet. Like, it's not hard to try that, right? It's not hard to do that. But if you look at me and say, dude, you need a diet, you're going to start like no more carbs for you. Like, that's hard.
Right.
So being changed is hard. So like if you talk about buy-in, like if you can get somebody to like accept where you want to go and say like, this is how we have to get there, then you're good,
Yeah,
I think he's trying to tell us we need to start exercising. and
I
eating
knew
healthy.
that was coming.
I was like, sit up straighter.
I knew that was coming.
All right. Well,
Get back to that third place on the 8K. I didn't even know there were 8K. Like, I found this. I knew I had it somewhere, and I was like, I'm gonna put that up for.
Yeah, the 8K, the 10K, those used to be pretty popular races. I feel like they've all been replaced now by the 5K. Everything's just 5K now.
It was fun though. We went as a group, and then I bailed on them.
Yeah, they all did 10K.
You brought home the hard way.
I did. I got a trophy.
Everybody gets the trophy, Steve.
Well,
No, what year was this?
Yeah, 2014. Everybody did.
Yeah,
get a
everybody got a
but
trophy.
Mine says third place.
Third place age group, 30 to 30.
30. Yeah, there's probably.
Oh, it's an age. See, I thought you got third like overall.
No.
Ah.
From my age group. That's what I'm saying. There's probably like 9 people total that ran the 8K. Because there was a 5K, there was a 10K.
So there probably was only 2 in your age group.
2 in front of me.
Hey, come on, man. That's what we're going to bust his chops. He did great. You were a winner that day. Well, kind of.
I used to be in decent shape.
The winners all run the 10K. Chief would have whacked you.
No.
Nah, back then I was pretty. I mean, granted, that wasn't my fastest running ever. I was fastest when I was 16, 17 when I ripped my hip flexor. That's when I was my fastest. But I was pretty.
I was just thinking
fast.
one last thing before we go.
Yeah.
So Kevin O'Nella,
I got some love from him yesterday.
did you?
Yep.
So he asked me, he's like, "So did you have your race yet?" I'm like, "Yeah." Did you beat him? I laugh. I'm like, "No." He's like, "Oh, because you're just going to give $100." So he's like, "Oh, I have to give a $100 donation to the Chiefs charity." So Kevin O'Nella owns whatever charity you want to give to, $100. He told me that yesterday.
Yeah, I just you donated it to not the rec, right?
No, to the school.
Elementary school snack program.
There you go.
You'll just have to tell him.
Well, by the way, we'll get him at the school board meeting, and he can present his $100 donation.
Good luck.
Kev?
Yeah. You might not want to. No.
I've heard him on the radio a few times. So
I love
I
Kevin.
don't
He's
know
on the
him
radio.
personally.
He's cool. He's a good guy.
He was one
Yeah.
of the announcers at the Dancing with the Stars.
He was. All right, Chief. It's
Thanks.
getting late in the day.
It is.
We got a school board meeting. You should go home. You've probably been up since, what, 4?
I've been up since 4, yep.
How many miles you run already today?
Just 8. But I got a race next weekend, so I'm sort of like
Where's the race?
Woodstock, Vermont.
How many K?
21.1.
Miles or K?
Okay, so half marathon. Yeah.
Next Saturday. My wife's away doing something. I ain't got nothing to do.
Walking up
We
and
can
down
go cheer him
the
on.
driveway, working on that fence, though, that's been getting me in some shape.
Yeah.
He said
My wife said I'm atrophying. She's like, your legs are so tiny compared to when
he's
you're
talking about exercise and all that. And so you really want to get exercise, you'll put one plant down there and walk up, get another plant, walk
Yeah.
back down.
Yeah. Exercise is good, but being smart is better,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I start getting frustrated with that.
All right, Brent Wilmot with no end. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
6 letters, no end.
Yeah. My
See you
bad.
soon.
Fixed it.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week with Chief Wilmot. Thank you.